What I'm going to talk to you about today is investing in productivity. Now, this is undoubtedly a very broad subject, so I'm bound to make some generalizations as I kind of work through the content today. I'm going to talk for around about 20 minutes, allowing a bit of time for Q&A at the end if people are curious to understand a little bit more. And in terms of what I mean by investing in productivity, I want to talk through today what influences our attitudes towards investment, the types of investments we make, and the options we have to explore how we get to some of that opportunity. And undoubtedly, I will talk around the risks and challenges that exist as well. So to put some context around this, it's well publicised that UK productivity isn't where we would like it to be. Since the recession, GDP has improved and gone up, unemployment has come down, but productivity has remained relatively flat. And there are a number of influencing factors that drive our attitude towards investment and how we really break that idea of the productivity puzzle. So I thought what I would do is work through some of those influencing factors that take place at a national level and then talk around what matters to business. So politics plays a massive part in our attitude towards investment. We've gone through that process of the general election. We've gone through the disruption of the Scottish referendum, and we now look into what I would describe as a summer of uncertainty, where we weigh up the pros and cons of being in or out of the European Union. And undoubtedly, there will be strengths and weaknesses on both sides of the argument, but it's the level of unknowns that we're dealing with that influences people's attitude towards investing. Currency and the strength of sterling versus euro also has an impact on international trade, particularly our exporting books. And the global economy also plays its part, particularly the influence of China and the unintended consequences of a drawn-out downturn in their economy. I could have put something up here about the state of the US political situation at the moment, but that would be a whole different presentation. And then we have the influence of things like commodity and energy prices. So as oil prices fall at one level, that works really well for organizations and their fuel bills. At another level, it puts a whole sector under strain. And at the other end of the spectrum, we've got things like green energy, particularly with government subsidies falling away for things like onshore wind and commercial solar, and the reduction in feed-in tariffs. It signals a potential change in direction. Now, none of those points in isolation directly impact every business, but what we tend to see is a compounding impact, and it's the level of doubt and uncertainty and speculation that those points introduce that lowers levels of optimism. But actually, for businesses, this is a time when we should feel pretty optimistic. There are some fantastic opportunities to invest in new product development. There's opportunities to invest in innovation, and we can see that out on the floor today. We see that with high-value manufacturing and great examples around things like automotive. And by making investment in new product development and innovation, we have the added benefit of reducing cycle times and improving quality, all of which are vitally important if we want to have more conversations around reshoring of production back to the UK. But for many of the businesses we talk to, the 2 points that come back to us loud and clear are cost control is a priority, and so is managing cash flow. And that's particularly important when we consider things like the living wage and adjustments to pension arrangements that businesses have to face into. coupled with the cost of raw materials and margins coming under pressure, cash flow is really important for businesses. And it really puts an emphasis on how we make the right strategic investment choices and how we have the right conversations around managing working capital. Now, when you add all of those points together, there's a real danger that we can find ourselves in a negative spiral. We put off investment, we ultimately slow our progress, and we delay making decisions. And all of that adds to the puzzle of how we improve productivity, which has a direct correlation to the level of investment that we make. And ultimately, there are probably three outcomes we can look to drive by making investment. One is improvements to productivity, the next is efficiency gains, and the third point is building a better competitive position. And actually, when we're going through a period of uncertainty, now is a good time to invest. But it would be wrong to think that these three outcomes are isolated opportunities. Actually, they all interlink. So if we make investment to drive better productivity, it actually supports efficiency gains. And through better efficiency, we drive higher competitiveness. But there's a fourth area of investment that I haven't touched on, and that's how we invest in people. And I mean that both at the level of how we work to support the skills gap within the manufacturing sector, and also how we work harder to promote diversity. And it's through that that we make all of those three outcomes work together. If I pick on the skills point to start with, we can have the best equipment, we can finance it for you, but if we don't have the right skills and management structure to really work that equipment well, then we're never going to realize its potential. If we think about diversity, a recent Lloyds study which looked at women in business and focused on FTSE 100 manufacturing businesses identified that 23% of those businesses had female directorships, but only 7% of those businesses had a corresponding workforce of the same level of women. So there's only 7% of the workforce which was made up of women. And that is a massive missed opportunity when we're having conversations around how we tap into that talent pool and deliver a better outcome around skills. And there's probably a question around, so where does this all lead us to? Well, since the recession, financial services firms and banks have had to work very hard to think around how they support the sectors and their clients in a different way. And this is something Lloyds has taken very seriously. And I just want to touch on a couple of the points that we've done which link very closely to manufacturing. So first and foremost, we now have dedicated manufacturing relationship managers. These are relationship managers that have been accredited through the Warwick Manufacturing Group at Warwick University. They work nationally, and all of these relationship managers undertake an additional 40 hours of CPD every year. And the benefit we see from this is it gives us a much better and much more granular understanding of what's happening within the industry. We can understand client needs more. We have a much better understanding of how manufacturing fragments into different niches and what the different requirements are within those niches, even on a regional level. And to support those RMs, we also have product experts. And these are product experts who specialize in products such as trade, supplier finance, invoice discounting and factoring, and asset finance. And between the two, we can structure solutions based around our clients' specific needs. So I think that's a really good intention around how we support manufacturing. But I think there's a lot more we need to do to work together at an industry level. So another example of how Lloyds is helping the manufacturing industry is we've entered into a multi-million-pound sponsorship arrangement with the Advanced Manufacturing Training Centre in Coventry at the MTC. This is a 5-year sponsorship, and over that period, we are looking to create and develop 1,000 individuals into engineering apprentices who will then go and work in high-value manufacturing. And this is absolutely point and centre in terms of Lloyds' approach and strategy to help sustainability and support helping Britain prosper. But there's still more we need to do as a bank to support businesses. A recent survey that looked at how manufacturing businesses are supporting investment highlighted that they're still awaiting towards people using their own cash reserves and own overdraft in place of products such as asset finance or invoice finance. And there are some real considerations around this. By taking that approach, there's an unintended consequence for how businesses impact their working capital. They use up potentially alternative lines of credit that could be used elsewhere within the organisation. And particularly when cash flow is a priority, using your own money to drive an investment in an asset isn't necessarily a smart approach. So there's a lot more we need to do to drive product awareness. So what I wanted to do was just spend 5 minutes or so talking around some of the products we have available that fit really well with the kind of themes of today in terms of looking at some of the machinery that's out on the floor. So one of the products that's worth looking at is asset finance. And this is particularly important if you're looking to invest in new and used plant and machinery. It works for a whole variety of assets, so anything that's classed as durable, identifiable, movable and sellable is perfectly applicable to asset finance. But it also works particularly well for plant and machinery. And the product I want to touch on within the asset finance family is hire purchase. So as I've said, you can use hire purchase to finance new or used equipment. You can spread the cost of buying that asset and avoid making a one-off lump sum payment. And you can structure the term and the deposit to fit with your budgetary requirements. So you can stretch the term out to lower the rentals. You can add a bigger deposit to make the rentals less. And those rentals are fixed. And at the end of the agreement, you own the asset. So in all of that, you have the ability to budget with certainty, match the repayments to the lifespan of the asset, and most importantly, you use the security in the asset to look through to how you approach the credit, which means that you keep other lines of credit intact, so you make better use of things like your overdraft. And hire purchase also works really well with the annual investment allowance. So the government allows us £200,000 worth of annual investment allowance per year. And that matches very well with hire purchase. You can also use hire purchase and structure it alongside other products. So if you're looking to import an asset, you can use a trade vehicle under our capital import finance and then take out that import using the hire purchase product. If you're looking to make strategic investment over a period of time, we can set you up with a credit line. And when you're looking to purchase, you draw down on that credit line, again, allowing the fact that you've got certainty of funds available, and we can support your overall end-to-end strategic investment. Another product that's in the asset finance family that's worth considering is leasing. And this is particularly relevant if you're looking to invest in new technology and ITC. Again, the rental payments are fixed. You've got the ability to tailor the rental with a small deposit. And for larger transactions, we can structure it with a residual value. We can also approach financing from equipment from a whole variety of suppliers. Now, ultimately, what that allows us to do is pay for the equipment as it is used and not in advance. It allows the use of the equipment and the productivity you get from the equipment to help offset against the rentals and pay for itself. And the residual value position ultimately reduces the rental payments, again supporting cash flow. Again, as a product, we can set this next to other solutions such as pre-lease if you're going through a build phase, and credit lines if you're looking to make investment over a period of time. As a separate product to support cash flow, we also have invoice discounting and factoring facilities. This allows you to access the value in your outstanding invoices. You can maintain full control of your sales ledger, and this is scalable as your sales grow. With a factoring product, we can also manage your sales ledger for you. This means that you can get quick access to the money that you're owed. You can create a more predictable cash flow within your business, and it enables you to support your supplier relationships better. And also, you've got capability to structure asset-based lending solutions against stock and inventory and plant and machinery that already exist within your business. Now, what I've tried to do there is just touch on 3 example products. The industry statistics would suggest that these products are being used and being used well. So plant and machinery funding over the last 5 years has risen by 52%. IT equipment funding has risen by 94%. Use of invoice discounting has increased by 28%. And users of invoice discounting have risen by 6%. So all of that would say that the market's there, it's being used, but there's probably more we can do. If you're not already considering those sorts of financial products, then perhaps your competitors are. How I would kind of wrap some of that up would be, we're here today, we have a stand. Why don't you come and see us and talk to us around drivers of working capital? We've got a fantastic working capital tool. It's interactive. It allows you to see your performance of working capital, and it allows us to benchmark you against your competitors and your peers. This means we can offer you a range of solutions as part of a broader working capital strategy, and ultimately have a conversation around how we can help your business grow. So in terms of what I've talked through, I've talked about the influences on investment, the disruption and speculation and uncertainty and unknowns that come about through things like the political situation, that come about through the global economy, and how that can lead to slower progress and a softening of optimism. I've talked about how opportunity exists to invest in new product development and innovation, but for many businesses we speak to, that's balanced with the requirements of cost control and cash flow. And I've talked about investment, not just about productivity and efficiency and competitiveness, but also about how we invest in people, how we invest in the skills gap, and how we invest in diversity. And I've talked around how Lloyds is working to support the manufacturing industry, the work we're doing with the AMTC, the accreditation of our specialist RMs. And I've covered a little bit around how we've got some products that can help you. But I would leave you with this kind of thought and this kind of point of reflection, which is, if you're not already considering things like asset finance to invest in your plant and technology and plant and machinery, then the industry statistics that you would suggest that your competitors might be. And actually now is a really good time to invest in new technology. Thank you.